Here are instructions for Lab 11, Introduction to Minerals. For this lab, and many of the labs left this semester, you're going to be looking at videos that will show you minerals and rocks that normally you would see in the classroom, but unfortunately we can't do that. Hopefully you have a rock kit at home, so when we get to those, you can at least have some rocks in your hand. But today we're going to start with minerals. Now, where do you find the videos that show you these minerals? Well, I have a new module at the very top of our module page above the Office Hours module called Mineral and Rock Videos. So that's where you're going to find all of your videos for minerals and rocks. We're going to be looking at physical geology mineral videos today for this lab. And in the future, this is where you'll find your igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic rock videos. So if you click on this, you'll see it's an Excel spreadsheet. And you can either download it or you can just select from what you see on the screen. It'll bring you to YouTube videos that are somewhere between 1 and 5 minutes for each mineral. The first one shows you all of the hardness minerals. So that one's kind of a long video. I think it's 4.5 minutes. Sample 1, the video is here. Sample 2, the video is here. And it goes all the way down to mineral 45. We're going to start with the hardness minerals. So your lab has a bunch of instructions in it before it gets to the actual part where you have to start filling things in. So make sure you review all the different properties that are there. When you click on this particular video, you will see 9 different minerals shown that are the hardness minerals, and the person is going to describe each of them and test them on a streak plate, which I'll mention in a minute. And this is what you're going to watch to do the first part of the lab. This is the page that you're going to fill out with the hardness minerals. And this is a chart of hardness. So minerals have various hardnesses, and there have been 10 index minerals, they're called, that have been selected to represent hardnesses 1 through 10. Hardness 1 is the softest, hardness 10 is the hardest. So talc is mineral number 1. Gypsum is mineral number 2. Now, all the other minerals that are out there, and there are thousands of them, fall somewhere in this chart. But these are the main 10 minerals that represent each of the 10 numbers. Notice it also shows you the hardness of your fingernail, a penny, a nail, a glass plate, so you can use some of these for comparison. So you'll look at the video I just showed you. They'll walk you through each of these minerals, and you'll fill out this chart. Normally, if we were in class, I would give you a box of 9 minerals that are not labeled, and I'd make you try to figure out which is which by scratching them against each other. Now, the 9 minerals would be talc through corundum. I wouldn't give you diamond because we don't have diamond at PCC to hand out. So let's look at this chart and how you would fill it out. The hardnesses are listed here, and the mineral names are over here. This is a little bit unusual, but it is our first lab. In the future, you're going to have to figure out mineral names. So let's look at the different properties. The first thing that you're going to have to determine is luster. And luster means how a mineral looks in reflected light. Generally, we're going to decide that it's either a metallic luster or a non-metallic luster. There are lots of categories of non-metallic luster, such as this example down here for quartz that's been done for you. Vitreous or greasy. So vitreous means glassy. But NM, non-metallic, is good enough for me. Here's a metallic mineral. This is actually pyrite, or fool's gold, and you can see how it reflects light like a metal. This over here is a non-metallic mineral, and this actually happens to be gypsum, which is right here, Mohs hardness mineral number 2, and it is a non-metallic mineral. The next thing you're going to fill out is the color, and that's just what the color looks like to you. So on the left, I might call this a brassy color, brassy gold, and this one I might call white. Next, you're going to complete the streak column, and the streak is the color of the mineral when it's scratched on a porcelain plate. Here's an example. Here's a mineral that's brassy colored, and the streak is black. So the streak actually is different than the color of the mineral. The streak can be really useful for identifying minerals. Next, we're going to look at the specimen structure or the crystal form. And you're going to either select a shape like cubic or hexagonal, which means 6-sided, or massive, meaning there is no obvious shape. So for example, this mineral right here is massive. There are no crystal planes, there's no shape associated with it. Here are a number of different shapes that you might come across. Halite, which we looked at in the mineral video, is a cubic mineral. Diamond and fluorite are both tetrahedral. Quartz has 6 sides, so it's hexagonal, and then it comes to a point. Here's garnet, which actually has 12 sides, and that's called a dodecahedron. And then here's another mineral that has a unique shape called calcite, and this is rhombohedral. So you might choose from one of these right here. The next thing you're going to look at is cleavage versus fracture. And this is probably one of the most difficult properties for brand new students to see in geology classes. This property is related to how a mineral breaks, not how it forms, which is shown in this diagram here, but how it breaks. Because minerals tend to break along planes of weakness, but not all minerals do. This is from your lab manual, from this lab, and it's showing how cleavage is represented. It's a flat surface, a plane along which minerals tend to break. Not all minerals have cleavage, but some do, and when they do, the light reflects off it as if it were a mirror. Sometimes there's what's called stepped cleavage, but you can still see a reflection, a mirror-like reflection, as you rotate that mineral in light. Fracture is the absence of cleavage, and in that case, light comes in and gets bounced off in all different directions because it's hitting this irregular surface. So in this column, you're either going to put yes or no, does it have cleavage? And if no, then you're going to write that it has fracture. So again, this is going to be a bit challenging, but we're starting out brand new with this idea, and you'll get the hang of it after a while. The next column has some sort of formatting issue. It's supposed to say heft. This is a useful property, but we're not going to be using it because you're not going to have minerals in your actual hand. But what this is if you take a mineral in your hand and you heft it, you kind of bounce it up and down in your hand. Some minerals are extremely light, some are unusually heavy, and then most of them are medium. These are the categories that you would use, but again, we're not going to really pay attention to this since our course is online. Miscellaneous properties can include unusual things like taste. Halite has a salty taste. Smell. Sulfur has a distinct smell. Feel. Some minerals are greasy feeling, some of them are waxy feeling. Some are magnetic, some react to dilute hydrochloric acid. So that's what's going to go in this column. And sometimes this column is just going to be empty. There isn't anything outstanding about a mineral. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to work your way through this chart from minerals 1 to 9. Again, 7's been done for you. Let's look at number 1. Here's talc. So I chose the video, that's the hardness video set, and this is the first mineral. And the first thing we're looking for is luster. Is it metallic? So this is definitely not a metallic mineral. So we're going to say not metallic. The color of the mineral is white. The person in the video usually checks the streak with a streak plate, and this streak is white. So we're going to put that as well. Next, specimen structure. This is a massive structure. There's no shape to this. It's not cubic or hexagonal or anything like that. So we're going to call it massive. There's no cleavage, so we call it fracture. We're not going to worry about heft. And if the person mentions some of the miscellaneous properties, this one's particularly powdery. You probably know what talc is. It's what we get talcum powder from. And so that's the way it's going to work. You're going to work your way through this chart. Don't worry about getting the right answer. Just use your observation skills. Watch what they're showing you and try your best to figure out these different properties. The rest of the lab has you looking at particular numbers for particular features. So this one has you looking at the color and the streak of that mineral. So we're going to start with number 7. So remember, you're going to go to your list, you're going to choose mineral number 7, and it's going to show you this little 2.5 minute video. Now, in this particular case, we're just looking at color and streak. So the color is black or dark brown, and the streak, if you watch the video, turns out to be colorless. So we're going to put black for the color, colorless for the streak, and then those are different. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. So you're going to just examine these minerals right here, 16, 32, 38, and 44, and compare their color and their streak. Next, you're going to look at these 5 samples for luster and diaphaneity. Luster is metallic or non-metallic, as I've already mentioned. Diaphaneity is a fancy word for can you see through the mineral. So there's 3 categories. There's opaque, meaning you can't see through it. So for example, if you held the frying pan up to the light, you could not see through the frying pan. The frying pan is opaque. Then there's translucent, where light comes through, but you can't necessarily see images through it. For example, a sheer curtain will let light in, but you won't necessarily be able to see through it and see a person's face. Then transparent is like a piece of glass where you can see through and see images and details. So the first sample to look at is number 3. So here is sample 3, and I've just shown you a couple snapshots from the video. This is definitely a non-metallic mineral. And in this image, you can see the person's gloved fingers through the mineral. So this is definitely a transparent mineral. So we'd put non-metallic and transparent. Try your best to do these next 4. You can skip question 4 because this is an online class and we're not going to be able to do heft. Number 5 asks about crystal form, and the first one it wants you to look at is number 1. So number 1 is shown here in several different images. Again, watching the video is a little bit more helpful. But you can see that there's these flat and almost square sides to it. And that's what we call a prism. So this sample has a shape called a square prism, and we're not going to make any notes at this time. So you're going to look at all of these samples here and try to figure out what their crystal shape is. Finally, you're going to look at cleavage and then miscellaneous properties. And remember, I said cleavage is very tricky. So number 1, we've already actually looked at number 1. We were just looking at it. And this does have these cleavage faces right here on this face and then on this face here. So this is the way it breaks. It breaks into these step-like faces. So we're going to say that the cleavage quality is fair. It's not super great. We have 2 cleavage planes at 90 degrees. If we don't have cleavage, like number 3, this sample, even though this sample has crystal sides, it breaks irregularly right there. So this one doesn't have cleavage, in which case you just say it has fracture. So you're going to go through the rest of these and try to figure that out. Unique mineral properties, look in your lab for types of mineral properties that are miscellaneous, and you'll find some choices there. Finally, you're going to wrap up with the post-lab questions. Don't forget, this is where to get the videos. Good luck.